Um, I don't know where Stephen Mera is. I mean, I talked to him about 20 minutes ago, and he says, "Yeah, I'm ready. I'm online and everything else." Now I'm getting nothing, so I don't know what's going on. Um, so anyway, as I look behind the scenes, um, Xandean, you know a lot about the Florida Coral Castle. Can you tell Staci about that? Because that's one of the things that we were going to discuss with Stephen. And
Okay.
I will go behind the scenes and see where Stephen is. So,
All right.
okay.
Well,
And Dean,
all
take it
right.
away. Take it away.
Xandean, can't hear you, honey.
Xandean can't hear you.
Hey, we
Nope.
got you. Got me?
There
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. Take it away. I'm going to go behind the scenes.
All right.
All
Let
right.
me hear
Yeah.
all
So,
about it.
so yeah, Stacy, what I mean, I'm sure Steve Mera knows a lot more about this particular story, but when I was younger, this story caught my eye. It's he when I was studying up on Tesla, this guy came up, but it's a 135-pound man from Florida who he had this coral castle. And the importance of that was that these corals like weighed like tons. And they never could figure out how he built any of these structures, and until the day he died, he never revealed his secrets. And so, I looked him up. He would do things like this. He never wanted anybody to see his process. So, like when he had food delivered, or if he had other slabs or other coral, they would just set these blocks to weigh tons by near his house, and he would tell him that's okay, leave it there. And when he was sure everybody was gone, whatever this magic process was, he would do. And he also had some other, I wouldn't say peculiar behaviors, but like he just was different. In his coral castle, uh, he would hang his furniture upside down and his food. A lot of times he would hang his food and his furniture and everything upside down. Um, I remember us reading something where it might almost been an epitaph or like a tribute to a lady he loved, because he didn't have a lady at the house, but I
Okay.
believe it was somebody he loved, and that was part of it too. He would sleep upside down too, as well, sometimes. Um, so
Sometimes
far, what do
back.
you think, Stacey? What do you think so far, Stacey?
Well, that's insane. I mean, okay, so there's coral blocks that
Yes,
he would have moved beside what the house was, and then he was able to somehow move
chisel
all those blocks to where
and
he
chisel
wanted.
them down. Yeah, chisel them down, make formations, and he would make all these structures. Like say, everything was out of coral, and nobody, as far as I know, and Steve I know, but nobody to this day has figured out how he was able to do this. And he only weighed 135 pounds.
Hmm.
And they say that he had the ancient Egyptian secrets. Somehow he,
That's what
That's
I'm
what they remind.
thinking, like how they made the pyramids.
Right, right. That's what comes to mind, and that's what everybody. But the Tatarians, a fabled race that lived in Russia, supposedly. Now they just had documents, CIA documents, saying that it really was such a thing, and that it hinted at possibly because they had free energy, all their buildings had free energy. And when the oil revolution came out, I guess they were phased out, supposedly what they said. But they also have frequency, because they built great towers and churches and buildings just like the Coral Castle. And they
Mhm.
were known to have frequential tools to help them, frequencies to make it vibrate or move or something.
Yeah, I've been looking into a little bit more about kind of all the different frequency stuff. These kids here just recently found a frequency, if I can speak properly, that will put out fires.
Wow.
So yeah, they
Wow.
showed it. They had it all together. They have this big thing, probably about this big, and he was holding it down to a fire that was on the ground, and it just like puffed it out, and it was
Oh,
gone. Yeah, it was
and,
really neat.
and the trumpets of Jericho brought the walls down.
I could
Hey,
see,
that's a good point, Paul. That's a good point.
And not only
Right.
that, they say that the blocks, those heavy blocks over in Florida, that Coral Castle, they were levitated using some type of sound frequency.
And I could see that from both the pyramids and the castle if he figured that out. But the question is, when he died, did they find anything to indicate that he had anything like that?
First, we find that they had a little wooden box, and it was on three, oh God, legs, so like 3 legs, little brown wooden box.
Okay.
Something was in that box that he used to move those big stones, and they never could find that wooden box.
Ah,
Right.
that is insane. That is crazy. And how long ago was this? The Coral Castle. How long ago was that?
Oh, wasn't it like the 50s, 60s?
Something like that, yeah.
50s or 60s? Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
because well, when I read it, I read about it like in the 90s, and
Wow.
the film that they showed, it looked like it was from that that era, so like the 50s. I would,
Cool. That
Paul,
is
you might
super
have to look that
cool.
up.
Now the question is, why the heck did he hang everything upside down, though? That's kind of weird.
Yeah, that was something, and they said that he something about the gravity preserving the food better as well, being upside down. I mean, they mentioned something about that, but the furniture, um, and it was extended from chains when he hung. Yeah, so a lot of it was extended from chains. So I didn't understand that. And like when he would have, like I said, when he would have stuff delivered, he took really good control, care to not let anybody see it.
Wow.
Right,
That is
Paul?
neat. Paul,
Yeah. So
Yes.
is he rooting back yet?
No, I don't get it.
Oh,
We've had Stephen on the show before. Stephen Mera, publisher of Phenomena magazine.
yeah, I
And
remember seeing him.
yeah, and he's been on the Unexplained. He's been on Ancient Aliens. He wanted to be on the show. He wanted to talk about that Coral Castle,
Yeah.
and he
probably
wanted to talk about the Black Knight satellite. And when he was on Ancient Aliens, he was talking about the Black Knight satellite. I've always been fascinated with that.
Okay,
Uh,
when's that?
the Black Knight satellite, a lot of people believe it's an extraterrestrial satellite. When they took a picture of it from space, it actually looks like Batman's Batmobile, but it looks like it's floating in space. That's why they call it the Black Knight satellite. And they believe the watchers, these extraterrestrials, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, placed that up there to observe the world, the Earth. So they're essentially recording all the events on Earth through that satellite. And that's not the only satellite. There's other satellites they believe are extraterrestrial that are circling the Earth. So, yeah, and Stephen did a really good explanation of it on Ancient Aliens, and he's not here to talk about it.
No, that's okay. We can just talk about stuff.
Well, still, I mean, Ed Linkishin, like we said, some of those stones are like up to 30 tons.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, and the most significant mystery, is how, using rudimentary tools without, any kind of heavy machinery. But the tool usage, while he did have pulleys and levers, the scale of the stones and the apparent ease which he moved them over 20 pounds is what puzzles many.
Huh. Yeah, that
So,
is crazy. Because you wouldn't think that even just vibrations or, whatever frequencies or anything like that would even be strong enough to
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Well, he offered explanations involving, leverage and weight, and sometimes alluded to ancient knowledge, but he never fully revealed his methods. He worked in isolation, often at night, would stop working if anybody approached, which added to the mystery of it, So, and the comparison of ancient structures, if you look at the construction of the Coral Castle, they always compare it to the building of the pyramids and Stonehenge, suggesting that he employed similar techniques, like Paul said.
Okay.
And there are all kind of theories, claims of levitation, extraterrestrial assistance, use of magnetism, but there's no concrete evidence there. And what I said about his love story, leadership built the castle as a monument to his love, Agnes, Agnes, and had that was a romantic element they added to the mystery. And by the way, he died in December of 1951. He's born in 1887, so all of this happened, within that period.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know. Wow, the mysteries of the world, huh?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I just don't understand why you would just leave it that way, though. If you had this great technique and these great things that you use to build something, I don't understand why people would want to hold that so closely till the day they die.
Well, you know what? That's a good question. But Staci, what do you think about maybe just like the pyramids, or say if you told somebody you were immortal, right? I mean, right away, they probably take you and dissect you. I mean, your life would be over. I mean, if he did tell those secrets, the stuff about pyramids, who knows? He might have been some kind of Mason or somebody had sworn to secrecy, but he was using a little bit of that, and that knowledge, maybe it's not supposed to go to the public, and maybe, he was already crossing the line, perhaps. But an edge like that would give a world power, power of everybody. So maybe he was, conscious of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But something
or
like
maybe
that.
he was just insane.
I mean, and actually, I said 135 pounds. I think that might have been like his latest weight, but he was about 100 pounds when it was happening.
Wow,
I mean,
that's insane.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of, there's no way that you're going to pick up 3,500 pounds, but with a little help, maybe. I just saw a video of this guy that was his arms were probably about this big around, to be honest. And they did a video of him standing up on a car, and it was only a 4-banger, but still, he picked this motor up, got up out of the whole motor up out of this car, got out and picked it up and carried it. And you're like, superhuman strength here. But yet he was just a small little old thing. Still not 3,500.
Yeah. But
superhuman. But with that strength and a little bit of help from, I would say, weight doesn't always constitute muscle and strength, but who knows? That is insane. I like that. My question, I like your black thing. What'd you say it was, Paul?
Oh, the Black Knight.
Black Knight. Okay. Yeah. I like that because that goes to my theory that that these aliens, that were all a TV program to all these aliens, and they just turn the channels. They watch it like they watch reality TV.
Well, even like when you look at the Bible, the extraterrestrials, angels, God, or whatever you want to call it, they seem like they're very interested in our history. There's like, Adam is related to so and so. He had these children, Abel and Cain, and the whole family history. It seems like they're very, very much into our history. So everything that happens on Earth continues on because it's being collected by extraterrestrials.
I agree with that as well. Definitely. Now I'm gonna help. Oh, go ahead.
But okay, here's something that'll blow you away. All the events on Earth is being recorded through light, and
right.
if you go all the way to the, let's say, the edge of the galaxy, and you have this high-powered telescope, and extraterrestrials are looking through this telescope, and they're centered on Earth, what they're seeing is the light from the past. And when you're looking at the light from the past, and if you enhance it, you could probably see Julius Caesar talking at the Colosseum of Rome.
That's a good theory. I like that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's not even a theory. It's so funny because it is something I've always thought of. And
Okay.
I did a thing where talk to a scientist. So I put it out there, and the scientist says, "You're absolutely correct." And then
What?
not too long ago, I seen another thing about it was written. Oh, what magazine was it? Oh, I forget. But it was some scientific magazine, and they were talking about it. But it's like a motion picture on Earth. All the light that hits it, and it's blasting into outer space, and it continues on, and you're looking at the past, and you can see all the events, everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, not you know, Paul, you're correct. I'm sorry, Staci.
Oh no, I was just saying. So I'm wondering if people that are trying to make like time machines and stuff aren't doing it the right way. You know, if you
Yeah.
to find a way to at least glimpse into the past, like you said, but you know, to use the light sources and the in that sense to find a way to get through to the past and time travel. Anyway, just my silliness. So what were you gonna say, Sandy?
No, I was just gonna say that, Paul, when you was talking about the light, you know, just like when you're a kid and everybody looks at the star and says, "Hey, you know, you're seeing a star what it looks like, you know, millions of light years when it first exploded. You're not seeing, you know, what it looks like now." And that thing right now with AI, they have a tool right now, and I mean, each day is getting better. But you can that light that he's talking about, you can enhance any image, everything so, you know, so incredibly to such a degree that right now he's right. You can see almost anything. If it's a wave, if it's light, I mean, they can pick it up. And like pictures they've been taking for years, the AI is going back now and extracting that light and showing even more stuff too as well. And, you know, to Paul's point, about the Black Knight, you know, that's a thing that's been going on for about 130 years as far as conspiracy. But they believe the thing is like 13,000 years old, and they're saying it's a UFO. It's a foreign alien spaceship. This is like, they're not thinking it's anything else. You know, from what I've heard, and there's all kind of pictures of it on the internet. It appears, you know, people have seen it everywhere. But NASA's even on board with this.
Well, that is neat though. I mean, just to think about, they need to start sending people up there to see if they can find it, so you get more definitive pictures of it.
Oh, there's some good pictures of it.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, there are. Even back in the early days of radio, they used to use it and, you know, have fun. I mean, before people could even really see it, they captivated their imagination with this thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's some very, very clear pictures of it.
Okay. I'll have to look those up then.
You know, I'm gonna give up on Steven and start concentrating on the show. I mean,
okay, yeah. We were just talking about we were just talking about what's, you know, Steven might, you know, touch upon the Ed Leakishin, the Coral Castle, and the Black Knight. And I'm sure he would have touched on other things. But where do you want to go from here, Paul? Because you know a lot of stuff.
Okay, well, you know what used to really, really confuse me and get me upset is when I heard that the Library of Alexandria was burned up. It was
burned up twice.
It was set on fire, and all those scrolls, all that information,
oh my God,
knowledge was lost. And then another thing that really pissed me off is when the Spanish conquistadors went into Central America and they took the Mayan Codex and destroyed it. Okay, so I'm thinking, I said, how can that ancient knowledge ever be brought back, retrieved? Well, then I was thinking, well, there was that theory, which is actually, this theory is true, about light being projected into outer space. So the people writing on the codex, or the people writing on the scrolls over at the Library of Alexandria, that
Mhm.
light that hit that paper as they're writing whatever story there is still exists in life form.
Ah,
But
that,
also,
that's uh
yeah, but
that's cool.
also too, if time travel is true, which I really do believe in time travel, you can
Mhm.
go back in time before it was destroyed and retrieve it that way. And
Yeah.
there's one more way. Who's ever reading it, the brain waves are uh, electrons. I mean,
Right.
and it's
That's right.
pure energy. So whatever you're reading is being projected in your mind, and if you can read those brain waves, you would be able to read the codex, the lost codex, or the lost scrolls of the Library of Alexandria. So it still
Wow.
exists in energy form, three ways.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
Paul, if you can think of it, like if you can think of it, it's probably already possible. Just that, and that sounds like a real plausible scenario. The Library of Alexandria, when it was burned down, they said that there was copies of everything up underneath, and that somebody, a private group or whoever these people were, copied it as well and then destroyed it. You know, there's all kind of theories about it, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
They
but
said there's copies of it, that they made copies of all those scrolls, and they're hidden somewhere. They haven't been unearthed yet.
yeah, I mean
Mm.
stuff on atoms. Say even like the Bible, they said out of 760,000 scrolls they could have chosen, they used like 8. You know, at the Nicene Council, like some ridiculous stuff. And then the thing about the Library of Alexandria, a lot of people don't know, is that when you had the Greeks and the Romans, the Hyksos come into Nubia, those Egyptian priests, Tyre, the people of Tyre, the people of Tasseti, Sudan, the people that built the pyramids before the Egyptian pyramids, you know, because Egypt was really called Kemet. It wasn't, Egyptus was named by the Romans. So stuff that happened after them, they had already absorbed or tried to some of the ancient knowledge. But a lot of those
Right.
Greek philosophers, even after 20 years of hanging with some of these Egyptian priests, and they still couldn't understand the total mystery, because it was an altruistic thing for these gentlemen. They lived it,
Right.
and they executed these sciences to where a person coming along trying to learn your dance, to learn your technique, and not really being fully immersed in it as a lifestyle. That was the thing. So the Library of Alexandria, what I was hearing was that as they were copying some of this information, some of it was too esoteric, so they had to fill in the blanks. So some of the shit wasn't even right. You know, some
Of
of the stuff
course.
that they were doing, because but then stuff like on atoms, everything that we could think of was in there. So but Paul, what do you think about the reset? Like, say if they say man has evolved like over 200, 300,000 years. Well, what about back at that time? And we just don't have evidence as far as artifacts, but like there were societies that crashed and burned and reset, and we had these technologies, but we just haven't found the artifacts. So you know, because when you talk about Alexandria, them having stuff about anatomy, about atoms, releasing energy, you know, at that time, that's like incredible. It doesn't seem earthly.
Hey, no, what's so cool though, Xandean? I don't know if you guys seen it, but on the news they talked about finding these petrified scrolls that are rolled up.
I saw that. Yeah. Mhm.
They said, well, okay, we can't unroll it because they'll break apart or they'll turn to dust.
Yeah.
So now, they now have a scanner that's able to scan the whole rolled up scroll that's petrified, and then bring it out on a machine, and you can read the whole scroll, which is so freaking
Wow,
cool.
that's incredible. That's incredible.
It is cool. Okay, but I have a question because you were talking about like the ancient people and stuff that have died.
Yeah.
How much do you guys know about the Anunnaki?
I could.
Yeah,
We Paul, take it away, Paul.
no. We got, but before we talk about the Anunnaki, though, I just want to talk about this. And let Xandean, because Xandean loves talking about the Anunnaki. But anyway, um, did you know that a lot of UFOs not only are they seen at military bases
Mhm.
and nuclear sites, but did you know that uh, UFOs have also too been seen at major libraries? That's why I think like the Black Knight is observing the history of Earth and everything
Okay.
that's happening with humanity. I
Yeah.
think also too that these UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call it, near libraries like the Library of Congress or any university libraries, and they say
Oh.
UFOs are seen sending down a scan, and the scan
Mhm.
is
Just like
so
the scroll. So
far advanced, they're able to scan everything in
yeah.
that library, everything. So, I mean that in
Incredible.
itself is my blower. I think it's so cool that our whole history is being recorded and documented. But anyway,
That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna let
No,
Zan talk about the Anunnaki.
Okay.
You know what? Well, since our listeners are, we're in for. I mean, since me and you and Stacey, we got all these things we could tell them. Steve's not here. I'll tell you what you said about the recording. I also met a gentleman, an older gentleman in LA. He used to always meditate and do stuff. And this guy would make stuff come. It's like, but what he said to me one time, he said, "Hey, you know what the orbs are?" I was like, "What?" He said, "They're recording everything." He said, "That's where they got the idea to record." He said, "The orbs record everything we do." And
I
I,
heard that too. I
yeah,
heard that.
you heard that? Yeah, that sounded pretty cool. And he also said he said to me that he was in contact with like a federation of like 11 planets. He said that they were actively trying to help us. He said and they had technology because he said that there were a group that were using, I guess, like dirty bombs in certain places and causing like insidious radiation in some areas. And he said that they were going behind them putting something that would clean that up. He said, but nobody knew. Almost like when you see people, the aliens shoot down a missile or whatever. They have a lot of examples of that on the internet of them interfering with, the arsenals. But the other thing I want to hit on too is, there's a lady, Dr. Astrid Stuckerberg out at CERN. And Paul, this is really interesting. She was talking about how when she started working there, she said that they are talking about 17 dimensions and then a possible 18th dimension. And the scientist Bertolucci told her that when the eclipse was going, they were going to start it back up, and either something was going to come through a portal, or they were going to send something through. And they have several portals around there where they sit around. Supposedly the scientists sit around the table. So she went to a dinner one night with the administrators, and she said, "I'm going to be working." And she said, "I want to know like what's one of the most incredible things that has been reported here." She said, "I need something good." And they were like, "Well, what they heard is that one day they opened one of these portals, and an entity, I guess like a person or whatever, came and sat down at the table with them, and left his scarf and took a scarf and went back in." And she was like, "Wait a minute, what did it look like?" And where did he? And so they said that that's all they know. And one of them told, said it was a secondhand story, but then she kept pressing and talked to Bertolucci, who was saying, "Yes, we, and then she tried to give his name, everything she could. And what she first started out with, before that, she was talking about the radiation and that, how harmful it was because she was studying different types of radiation. So she wanted to know first how many dimensions and if there was anything special that happened out there. So when you talk about the Library of Alexandria and we're talking about all these sciences and different things, it's like we have scientists today that are doing incredible things that maybe it's not moving the pyramid, but nobody's listening to what's happening out there at CERN. Don't you think that's kind of crazy, Paul?
Oh yeah. But you're talking about scientists. You guys heard of Brad Meltzer?
No.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a scholar. He's
Okay.
very knowledgeable knowledgeable about the paranormal and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh,
Anyway,
Yeah.
Brad actually is a friend of mine on Facebook, and we've been communicating. And it seems like he's going to come on the show sometime, probably in November or something like
that
that.
would be awesome.
Yeah, that's
Come on,
somebody.
Brad.
So, yeah, well,
Get on the show, man. Come on.
Okay, so I've got a question, and I want to know what you guys think about this. Then you guys got my brain going in different directions. So we've got aliens that are watching us, recording things, getting information, bringing that back to their home planet, wherever that may be, and whatever. But which universe or which metaverse, if you want to put it in comic book terms, are they looking at? Because we've got so many different, offshoots of our lives and this world and things like that. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, if they're looking at this universe, then do they go over in a city and get other information from this universe? You know
I
what
mean,
I'm saying?
I would think so. I mean, I would think that they would look into the whole multiverse and
Sorry.
look at all the different dimensions, different planetary systems, everything. And that, well, I believe extraterrestrials have their top-notch scientists. Let me make sure he.
Alrighty.
All right. Okay, so while we're waiting for Xandean, so what information did your husband give you?
Well, he was right, doing like the scary things in Missouri. So he found out that one of the things was before Roswell, the Cape Girardeau, Missouri UFO of 1941. So it's a pretty interesting story too.
So
So
what happened? Did a UFO crash over there?
it did. It crashed in the middle of a field. But okay, so it was around Independence Day of 1947 when the world grew skeptical that the Earth was the only planet to host living beings in the universe. These skeptics stemmed from the story of rancher in Roswell, New Mexico, who was said to have found a crash site within his land and held the remains of an extraterrestrial flying saucer. However, in 1941, 6 years before the Roswell UFO incident, Reverend William Huffman from the Red Star Baptist Church was called by the sheriff's department about 9:30 p.m. and taken to the scene of an accident so he could read the victims their last rites. According to Michael Huntington, local travel writer and UFO researcher, Huffman found himself praying over 3 extraterrestrial beings after their flying saucer struck ground in a rural Cape Girardeau field.
Wow.
So he was actually giving him their last rites. And I was like, wow,
Oh, wait a minute. You know something? I've heard of that story. I've heard of
okay.
that story
I'm
now.
right.
That just reminded me.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so back in 1941, it was a lady, it was her grandfather, who was the Reverend, said upon arriving, it was a very different situation. It was not a conventional aircraft as we know it. He described it as a saucer that was metal in color, no seams, did not look like anything he had ever seen. And back in 1941, I mean, I can imagine, I don't know how many movies were out at that time, but about UFOs, if any. I can't think of any. So,
Oh yeah, 1941. No.
no, yeah. So uh, there were also some bodies, 3 gray alien type beings, about 5 feet tall, big heads, and big eyes. said that 2 of them were dead, but one seemed to still be alive. That is the one that Hepburn performed his duties on first. So he was, as a reverend, he was still giving last rites to these aliens. Could you imagine?
That's crazy.
That is insane. So the United States, of course, was on the verge of World War II. Everyone on the site was sworn to secrecy as a concern of national security. So they thought maybe it was something that I guess the Germans or something, some weird thing that they were doing, which, I mean, alien beings dying. Oh, it's the Germans.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So apparently they did get a picture of all of them standing around the flying saucer in Cape Girardeau, but I thought that was pretty interesting. So,
Xandean says he's trying to get on.
oh no.
I don't know what's happening with him. Oh, boy, today's just all crazy. That blows me away. Steven was really looking forward to being on the show.
Yeah, what happened? Did he even?
And I didn't even get a message from him.
Oh gosh, darn. Well, I hope he's okay. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah. And not only that, his editor was supposed to be on last week and he didn't get on. And he said he tried to get on and he couldn't get on. So I don't know what the deal is.
Huh.
Yeah,
Was that Brian?
But I mean, you're not having a problem getting on.
Oh no.
Xandean now is having problems getting on.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is Bill on so he can try and maybe take care of it, or?
No, I mean, it's whatever the problem is on their end, and Phil can't help them. Phil's tried to help people before try to get on, but
I remember that one that we did that one lady was just having a heck of a time. She was on and off and on and off and on and off. I'm like, hey, let's just call it.
Yeah. Yeah, he just hearted me. I don't know what that means.
That he loves you.
Okay. Now he's what? Simon? What's that?
Huh?
So, I don't know. He sent me something. CIMUNG. I don't know what that means.
I don't have any idea.
Oh, coming. He's coming.
Oh.
Okay. All right, there we go. And then I'll go ahead and explain the Anunnaki. So, okay. I don't.
Well, we didn't finish the conversation about the universes, so.
Oh well, yeah, the multiverse and
the multiverses and aliens.
Yeah, and I believe that extraterrestrials or scientists would be looking at everything. Yeah. I don't think they would skip anything.
How much work do you think that would be, though? I mean, my gosh, you can just, us that don't have that kind of capabilities. I mean, do you think they have like 1% or one being? I don't even know what to call them because technically, I guess they're
the Watchers.
That like splits up. Yeah, the Watchers. Do you think they like one Watcher splits up into like all these different pieces to get every bit on the same timeline?
I think they have a very advanced scanning system. And like when you watch Star Trek, how the Enterprise is able to scan other ships, or other ships are able to scan the Enterprise. Well, same thing, yeah. And also too, and scientists say that one day they will have a scanner. Well, they had that one scanner that can actually read the words in those roll-up scrolls. So they are getting to where pretty soon they'll be able to scan a whole library. Oh, here he is. Here he is. Paranormal
I know he
Soldier.
had something to say about it too. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Xandean.
Maybe. Possibly.
What's he?
Hmm.
I don't know. Oh Lord, today is a really strange day.
You know,
Oh,
I think the planets are aligning weird because the cats have just been off their rocker crazy, especially last night. They were just doing weird stuff, flipping all over the place and acting
really?
insane. Like, what is going on? I said, it's not a full moon, is it?
No, as Xandean says, I'm coming. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
I'll connect.
Just feel me stroke of this.
Oh Lord have mercy.
Make sure you cut the spell.
Oh, so have you been doing any paranormal investigation?
There we go. There we go.
Oh, okay.
It took a while. For some reason, it wasn't connecting. It just wasn't. It just would not connect to the link. I think usually when Phil is on there, if the host clicks me on, but here we are.
All right, that's it, Xandean. You're fired.
Hey, that's my MO, so no problem.
Okay, so you want to know about the Anunnaki? And then
Paul, but what were you saying right before the break? You had a good thought right before the break. And I had looked up a couple more facts on Ed. Everything we pretty much said, Ed Leakishin from the Coral Castle. I just want to say a couple of things about that was that the children said that they saw him and they saw him floating things around. That was like the only hint. And they said that he also he created something called a perpetual motion holder. So what he really believed in fundamentally was magnetic energy. That was like his force, and he only had a 4th grade education. So they said he must have been a genius. And his moral compass. He had lost faith in modern dating and modern education. And one other fact they had about him was that when you go to his complex in Florida, there's a 9-ton wall, sliding wall that he made. And they didn't mention much about the furniture being upside down. They just mentioned that he had crescent moon stars, like some basic furniture. But in other sources, I had heard how he would hang stuff upside down. So, and some of them were 30 tons, Staci, and some were 9 tons, but all of them were like just, super, super heavy. So I just wanted to finish with that. But Paul, you were saying something before the break, and
Xandean, Steven he's emailing me now, and he's trying to get on.
Okay.
Wow.
So let me help him. I'll get back with you guys in a minute.
Okay. Well, what he was saying, because he finished his thought about that, was that it was the aliens were like scientists, of course, and we talked about how like the Watchers, how they were able to scan things quickly within the universes. But you had something you were going to say about that too.
Oh yeah, what I was going to say is when I studied the Egyptian mysteries, like of Anu, different ones, it was interesting how their cosmic concept of, like, instead of you just thinking there's a God or there's gods, people believe that, and there's this universe right here. It was interesting how they talked about some beings from another dimension, another reality, infusing themselves into this one, so we wouldn't, like, to them, they're commonplace, but to us, they're like, whoever they are, so special because they could do that. But it didn't make it seem so much like a creation story as it did some beings that are out there that have the ability to, as like aliens, come in here and alter our gene pool, like what the Anunnaki supposedly have done. So that's what I was going to finish when he said that. I was going to finish that thought.
Oh, all righty. Well, if we get Steve on, I know he did a thing on the Anunnaki as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
just
about the
this year.
Anunnaki, the thing is the deep dive, as far as Steve would probably come from a different angle. A lot of people look at them as, space guys or space beings that came down here and altered us like 67 different times. We were used as servants, but then also some people link the Anunnaki with the fallen angels. So my side of that is, there were 200 fallen angels. Samyaza was the leader, and
Okay.
God called those fallen angels out. But supposedly people say, hey, well, if God was an alien, or if the angels were alien beings, they still provided humans with things that we weren't able to do before. So,
right.
But the Anunnaki, the way the Sumerians talk about them is what were you going to say?
Oh, Xandean, we'll see if Steven gets on, but the Anunnaki, I mean, that's a fascinating extraterrestrial race of beings. They came down to Earth. They manipulate the DNA of some hominids that on Earth, yeah, and they made Homo sapiens. And the Homo sapiens they used for slaves to mine gold. And what were they using that gold for? Gold is used for all kinds of things. Computer parts, all kinds of satellite parts. And they were using gold dust because their ozone layer was almost depleted. So what they did was they put gold dust into their atmosphere to correct their ozone layer. And by correcting it, their planet wasn't dying anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Enlil and Enki, they played the role of God and Satan.
This is what they say. Yeah. They say that a lot of people try to connect Enlil and Enki to Yahweh and say, but here's the thing about that. If you look in the Hebrew Bible, you have wars going on where Enlil and Yahweh, like Yahweh was already there saying, I'm an unknown God. He was challenging. So I see a lot of stories where you could see that it was an equivalent, but at the same time, they have stories where they were existing at the same time and actually fighting. So if you look at the mysteries of Moses, the Tare Egyptian mysteries of Moses, you'll see that, the Neteru. Do you know what the Neteru are? The Neteru would be like the Anunnaki, but it would be what the Egyptians called them. So you're talking about Isis, Horus, Osiris, all
those gods.
Yeah. So they all they seem to all connect in some type of way, because you have Uza, Uta, who would be Samyaza, and then you have the Anunnaki. But regardless, they all were releasing stuff that altered the human genome. And supposedly the Anunnaki have, right, Paul, got to us like about 69 times, right?
Yeah. And what's so funny is too, like Enlil, okay, well, Enki, he did the manipulating of the DNA to make Homo sapiens and using this for slaves. But his brother, Enlil, he didn't like it. He didn't like humanity because they're rebellious, they talk back and everything else. So he says, oh, fuck it, I'm going to destroy them with a flood. And Enki goes, oh my God, you can't do that. So he took a character who was similar to Moses. And you got to think that the Sumerian clay tablets were written before the Bible.
Right.
Before the Bible.
Yeah, before. Hey, Paul, an interesting point to what you just said. When I asked ChatGPT, I said, if you were a sentient being and you had singularity, which would you resonate more with? The Abrahamic pantheon, Yahweh, God, or the Sumerian tablets, which is Sumerian tablets is all about the Anunnaki, right? So it said that it would resonate more with the Sumerian tablets with Enlil, Anunnaki, because that has there's more proof of it. Cuneiforms tablets is what it said. But I also asked it, would it resonate more with the Khoikhoi, the oldest tribe on Earth, or would it resonate with the Sumerians? It said the Khoikhoi, and the Sumerians have the Sumerians and Anunnaki had a hierarchy that was feared, angry gods. Okay, and like you said, they were angry, and we were service, we were slaves to them, and also the only people that had access to them were the elite through meditation, and so it wasn't a democratic religion. So what it cited about the Khoikhoi said that, hey, they've been around longer, they lived one with nature, democracy to be included in the sacred, and that they had trance dance. That trance dance was something they would really use to access God in the sacred realm. And it gave more credence to the supernatural mystical ability of the original indigenous people than it did to the Sumerians. It looked at more Sumerians in the Bible as a tree and roots. But as far as when it goes back to what people were doing, because you got to understand, whether it's the Bible story or the Sumerian tablets about the Anunnaki, those are still like 6,000 years apart. And you're talking about, and then in some cases, some people say 30,000 years apart. But even if that's the case, you're still talking about stories that are older than them.
Right.
That these came after. So it's really hard to say, like if you want to say that happened, because the history of 200,000 years ago versus so you got the Bible at 10 to 6,000 years ago at most, okay, and tones change, skin tones change. So even when you talk about 55,000 years ago, you're talking about you're talking about dark people that were doing a lot of this, whatever their myths were, they were talking about. So the Khoisan, I'm saying, being 140,000 years ago, being there, worshiping God, in a streamlined way. So if you're procreating, you're having fun, you're worshiping, and you're hunting and you're gathering, all those are streamlined. And so I was thinking, well, why wouldn't they know more? But the computer, ChatGPT, actually thought that it liked the older religions even more than the Sumerians, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
that is. And also too, like Anu was Enlil's
Sky god.
father. Yeah. And he was known as a sky god. And Enlil, he was the god of air and storms, and Enki was the god of wisdom and water. Basically, Enki was a scientist. So Enlil seemed like he was jealous of his brother, who was very knowledgeable about a lot of things and manipulating our DNA and making us into slaves and mining that gold and everything else. They're also too from a planet called Nibiru, and Nibiru has this crazy ass orbit that goes way out there and back, and then back out there again. So when they get close to Earth, that's when we're going to supposedly see the second coming of Anunnaki. They could be
or Jesus, if you want to think of it that way.
Well, they said they're not coming back. They said they're not coming back until we learn how to feed our poor and heal our sick. That was one of the criterion. So I don't know if they'll be coming back soon.
No, probably not. Unfortunately, I mean, it's the truth, though. Everybody is so just for themselves and stingy, and the people that are caring and loving and want to do something amazing, they get stepped on and pushed aside and taken advantage of. And so it's just like, and then they get jaded. I know, believe me. And then you're just like, I don't want to do it anymore.
But what really blows me away is that Enlil and Enki, these two brothers, they're so similar to the Bible story of God going against
right. Well, but see the thing,
angels,
and but see the thing about the stories, Steve, people always say, because Adamu is in the Sumerian tablets, and it's Adam in the Bible. The Tower of Babel was built in Sumerian tablets, and the Tower of Babel was built in the Bible as well. And how they said the races came. They said when they destroyed the people that were building the Babylonian temple, in the Bible it says that God came down with 70 angels and put cancers in their body so they couldn't do the wizard signing. He didn't like the signing and solution of sorcery, so he made them get sick so they couldn't finish that anymore. But in the Sumerian tablet, actually, one more thing is that's how the languages started. God said, hey, I'm going to separate everybody so they can't get together and do this crap anymore. So I'm going to have, everybody separate language and geography. But that wasn't so in the Sumerian tablets. But here's the thing, they're both stories that are parallel. But when you go to the actual history of what happened in those times, the Hermetica, the divine Hermetica, the Kemet scientists, they're saying, hey, listen, man, you guys try to say, that story is the one when we already had 30,000 years of civilization, architecture, and scholars. We already had something. So you're talking about Shabaka, the Memphite stone, things that came before that, where this was like, it's if you believe it, because the timeline of when it was asserted, you would have to say that the people outside the Bible, the 10,000 6-year period that were existing 200, 300,000 years before the hominids, or they want to say Neanderthals, those who supposedly had no soul and God created it. But what the Egyptians believed was that when God made creation, things were created at one time, not like this evolved thing. And they're saying that if you would let our scholars prove to you, have an open debate, you give some scholars millions of dollars to research their shit. But now we're trying to tell you with the divine Hermetica that, no, we didn't come from no damn Neanderthal, that the migration doesn't even match. They say, hey, the migration doesn't even match for what they say. They said that they can prove the migration from the Hermetics even, better. So they supersede the Sumerian tablets in the Bible as far as, so there is a contingent out there that makes it. So now when I look at the Anunnaki and I look at these things, I'm thinking, I'm sure the aliens came down, but Paul, what do you think about the Smithsonian Institute messing up all these timelines so where people are confused? I mean, maybe the Anunnaki came even before the Khoi. I mean, you just don't know.
Smithsonian is run by the government, and the government is known for cover-ups, and the Smithsonian is doing cover-ups. Look, they're hiding all facts from giants. I mean, giants used to walk the earth, and they're hiding all the facts. Every time we dig up giant bones, the Smithsonian, they send out their little archaeologists. They collect those bones and they hide them.
Yeah, I can't remember where it is, but there's a state that have these mounds that are all over the place. It's somewhere in the U.S.
Nevada.
Where is it?
Nevada has them, the red giant mounds from the red giants.
Kentucky. I went to one in Kentucky.
Ohio? Kentucky, Paul? I didn't know about Kentucky. I know Ohio, St. Louis, St. Louis. Well, look at those names. Memphis, Cairo. They keep, it's all these connections to those areas that have this stuff that you're talking about, Paul, the giants.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget that snake mound. And
right.
You
can see it from the sky, right?
Yeah. Isn't that over in Virginia or someplace?
I don't know.
Wait, you know something? You're in Missouri, right, Staci?
Yes, I guess.
The Garden of Eden is supposed to be there.
Yeah, you got some mountains in Missouri.
Yes.
Well, let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
They've been talking about a Garden of Eden, and they said, well, have you seen? So I don't know what it looks like in Missouri, but
Okay, yeah, you got Sugarloaf Mound in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
You got Big Mound Monument at St. Louis, Missouri. And you got
that place is loaded. Up under some bridge, they just found a whole city that has like almost hieroglyphics and stuff. It's not quite Egyptian, but it has similar stuff. It's supposed to be under some bridge in St. Louis. And I heard some brothers talk about it. I heard some brothers live in St. Louis say, hey, man, you know what? Some of these parks and some of these, you can go just a little bit here. Then they got all these artifact or historical, stuff that's related to, Egypt or whatever they're thinking of. But I don't know which bridge it is, but they found some city up under all this rock that, had the hieroglyphics.
Well, we were just talking, and not to get off because I was going with the giant things on the mountains, but we were just talking about that. In 1941 was the actual first documented sighting of aliens landing in Cape Girardeau. There was an alien crash 6 years before Roswell ever became famous for it. So, but they of course covered that all up. And I was just like, what, it's insane. But when it came to the mounds, what I was talking about was that when they were talking about the red-headed giants, well, all the giants were redheads. So, but anyway, so they were saying that the natives in there they found a cave where the Native Americans had shown, like they do with the mammoths and everything. There's cave drawings of them beating these giants. So they think that a lot of the mounds and stuff that are in and around these different states are actually the mounds of when the Native Americans had defeated these giants and buried them all under there. So I thought that was kind of neat that somebody was saying, you could be driving by all of these giants bones in there and you wouldn't even know it, but nobody's going to dig it up to make sure because nobody wants that out, which is weird. Why?
Stacy, like when you were living in Sacramento, right?
I was living in Georgetown.
Okay, Georgetown. And then Xandean lives where you live at?
I'm up in the Tahoe area.
Okay. And right in those areas, there was so many mystical things. I mean, in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the Native Americans over there said that they went to war with Bigfoot.
Right.
I remember that story. Yes.
Yeah, there's a about Bigfoot. Yeah, the world
and there's
what you said about giant. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no. There's Bigfoot sightings all over Sierra Nevada, and also in Sierra Nevada. A lot of people don't even realize this, but there's reports of werewolves.
That's cool.
Yeah, freaking werewolves. And then you got Lake Tahoe, and you got Tahoe Tessie. Yeah, some kind of lake monster.
And the crazy robots they had up here. But what you said about the giants. One interesting, I wouldn't say theory, but one thing I heard is that if you think about it like this, feed, five, fold, farm, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Smell the blood. This thing about giants, if they're real, which we feel they are, then it's like, well, what is their DNA compared to ours? And the way giants historically are supposed to have come about is from
hey, Steve Mera, sir. Xandean, let me stop you. We got Steve Mera. Finally. Oh my God, Steve, what the hell happened to you?
He's here.
Can't hear you.
Oh, Steve, your mic is off. Oh, Steve, I don't.
Oh.
No,
the connection today.
No,
I had a hard time. It must be the connection. I have a hard time. About the Giants, he's going to connect about the Giants. If they have the DNA of angels or of alien beings, then that would open up a can of worms for a lot of people. So if you find giants, their bones, people too. Like the Solomon Islands, they had a priest that was over there talking about the giants. He supposedly, a lot of people were getting in trouble when they find these bones because it would say, hey, our DNA is part altered. But I looked up Samyaza. If Samyaza had copulation with the human lady and his grandson was Og, the two giants in the Bible called Og, and what's the other one? It's two of them, but Og is supposed to be a known giant, 15 feet long, and he was defeated by Moses supposedly. But here's the thing: I said, well, if he's a real giant, wouldn't that mean the angel was his family? And Samyaza was the father of Ohijah and Ahijah, two giants. And he passed most of his secrets to their son, which is Og. So Og was one of the giants that survived the flood. So that's when Moses and them came out of when they came out of the desert supposedly, and they got to the promised land. There were giants, and one of the tribes of the 12 tribes of Israel said, "Hey man, we got over there, and those things make us look like grasshoppers. Like, what are you supposed to do?" And God had told him, "Look, didn't I tell you that you can handle these?" Go ahead.
Shall we hear you?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Steve, right on. Listen.
The man.
I was just talking about you because you were on the Unexplained talking about the Black Knight satellite.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Well, it's been going on for a long time. It goes back to the days of Tesla, and then obviously the Department of Defense, the U.S. government. inquiring about foreign objects, and not just Black Knight, but a number of them, which were foreign objects initially thought to be from some other country. Then they realised it's in a polar orbit, which is highly unusual because you don't really put satellites in polar orbits, to be honest with you. We've only got about 3 now, to be honest with you, and that's only because obviously the weather data for the polar regions. So it was highly unusual. But then, there's been so much in kind of investigation as to who's responsible for it, and they kept going back in time to the point where, well, you know what, it can't be something that we've launched because it's kind of prior the technology of getting it up there. So, of course, it's speculative theories that it's part of the blanket off one of the STS missions. It's a part of the an attachment that came off, and it was just kind of floating around. And look, there's lots of different things like that. It's one of those. It's kind of up there. Like, well, some people think it's something which has more as a more mundane explanation. Some people think that it's got certainly some unusual explanations. It's only the fact that it's not the first and it's not the last. There's been others which unidentified satellites which nobody can take claim for. So it's kind of still a mystery, and that's why it is. That's why it remains the unexplained. Because like Bill Shatner was talking about, it's one of those mysteries that it just keeps going on because nobody can actually pinpoint who owns it or who put it up there.
That's crazy.
Big mystery.
Yeah. It is a big mystery. Nice to meet you, by the way, Steve.
And you, Staci. Thank you.
Good to see you again, Steve. I couldn't wait to see you, man.
Yeah, well, we had a little hiccup because I know like the information that was sent over said 9 p.m. BST, which is summertime, which it is. I mean, it's only 9:21 here now.
Oh, wow.
And I think I got the message an hour earlier from Paul saying, "Where are you?" at 8 o'clock rather than 9 p.m. So that threw me. And then the Zoom link wouldn't go through, and then
it's bad today, Steve. It was bad today.
Was it? Yeah. Do you know what? We've noticed a lot of cell phone weird activities taking place over the last say several weeks. I don't know if there's some exotic stuff that's happening from the sun and they're not telling us, but I tell you, it's been bad across the UK.
I agree.
Steve, what's been new on your side?
Well, do you know what? I'm still involved in the experiments. I mean, as you know, we started in 2003 with the Scientific Establishment of Parapsychology in an attempt to communicate with non-human intelligence, NHI experiments. So from 2003 to 2015, we conducted 17 experiments, 4 of which are in the public domain. There's still a considerable amount which haven't been released to the general public as yet. And we went on from the backing of some of the work that had been done at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, the National Laboratories.
Oh, nice.
And we also, from the work that was taking place in the 1998 throughout the Skull experiment in the UK, and a number of other ones, have been listed around the world. And we had a protocol to communicate, but there's kind of a fast route and a slow route to NHI communication through the seance process, because a lot of people think, well, do you know what, when did these communications happen? It wasn't just sort of CE5 type incidents, because, prior to CE5, you've got HICE, of course, which is a bit more selective. And now the most common is obviously psionic circles, but it's kind of the same thing anyway. It's just all wrapped up in different names, whoever's doing it. But it goes back a long, long way, right back to ritualistic or seance type practices to communicate with non-human intelligence. And I tell you, when you do the studies, it's absolutely strife. It was everywhere. Every top establishment was involved in it, including the Masons. They all had different angles. Some of the Masonic way was to do it ritualistic and through geometric architecture and symbolism. But it's the same process. It's just slightly done in a different way. The best way I can describe it is like divination. How many forms of divination is? Well, you know what? You can go and get the same information off people. It might be palm reading, crystal ball reading, tea leaf reading. It doesn't matter. It's their comfortable method, but it's
Right.
all the same thing. And this is what's been happening all over the world since, so basically since ancient times. We've gone back to 700 BC when it was happening. So, you know, this is not something new. But the whole purpose of this is to, well, it seems these intelligences will reward in our strange reality of this world. They do reward in certain ways. If it's a mission, if it's something of great importance, it's about the success of that. It's about health and wealth and success to businesses and your operations. But you got to pay homage. And we know that when we say pay homage, it's even happening today. There's about 160 launches every month from the world of going up into space. Now, the likelihood is you might only find out maybe about 10, 20 of these. Some of them might be Musk, some of them are NASA, some of the European space agencies and other things. But
your background on the Sun?
Yeah. Yeah. And I in these add what do you want? So, but I like background. You've got a very nice looking house. So,
Thank you.
except for I'm not too sure what's that thing behind you because it kind of looks with the way your head's.
It's like a little thing, and then I got a picture of a lion up there. It's like I know. It's like, what the heck is that?
Is that a lion or a tiger?
Hey, tiger. I guess tiger. Yeah, tiger.
Is that a bull?
No, I wouldn't dare, especially with Mr. Mera on. You know.
It looked like a glass dildo before when his head was right beside it, so I was worried.
All right.
No.
Today we got Stephen Mera, the publisher of Phenomena Magazine, and we were talking about some stuff, and I'm going to let Steve take it away.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. And, you know, I finished on just sort of saying there's 160 launches every month of spacecraft that go out of into orbit. We only see a handful of them. And I was just about to say, you know, out of those ones that you don't get to see, you'd be surprised. And that's when it cut me off. And I thought, you know what? You're not going to get to see it again. You know what I mean? So it's just typical that it went at that moment. But what you don't get to hear about is the rockets which have sigils on them. Ancient Latin, ancient Greek, even rumored that there's Babylonian or Sumerian, angel taught, you know, Enochian. There's different things on there. So, you know what? There's a number of people that have come forward, high-speaking people in certain areas, professors, have been privy to this and asked the questions, why do these launchers take say? And they're done at certain times like dusk and dawn when most people aren't up or are seeing these things. They're in remote locations anyway. And why are they covered in sigils? Why they got even symbolistic images? Now I'll tell you, I've got the mission badges for some of these things because even if they're unmanned, there's always a mission badge, always. And when you look at these mission badges which have been sent, they've got grey faces on them, the greys, alien greys. They've got do you know what? It's just everything. They've got supernatural symbolisms in there as well. They've got all sorts of things, as well as the sigils that they put on them. So the questions were asked by these people that attended, you know, well, why? Why are they on them? And the reply was very short and puzzling. It was, well, I guess it's for them up there. And the questions were, well, who's them? Sort of thing. But this goes back a long time, because if you talk about moon landings, first flag wasn't the American flag, it was a Masonic flag. It was a Masonic ritual took place on the moon. It's documented, it's well documented. Masonic flag went in first because it's paying homage. Why did it pay homage? Well, if you go back, I can list at least 30 of the world's greatest rocket engineers that all received downloaded information, and not just downloaded information in the way of dreams, but also currently being awake, consciously being awake and getting downloads, and even communications with these NHI through ritualistic practices to gain the knowledge of how to get us to space. So it would seem there's a great interest in giving humanity this push in technology to get us to the stars. And don't just get me on that, quantum mechanics, AI, lots of different things, and even inventors. Now, the problem with that is that we end up being a bit more like them because we aren't advancing consciously and spiritually fast enough. The technology is running away. And if you think about it, it's a bit like we're ending up like them. You know, it's incredible technology, but they make stupid mistakes because, you know, it's just one of those things. And the problem is that we are ending that way, and we're moving at such a tremendous speed. Now, and this goes back thousands of years, goes back to, well, we got it back to like 700 BC, but it goes back even further than that. You got to think, well, it wasn't very well documented, but ritualistic practices are a well-known thing. And Jack Parsons was involved, you know, and many, if not most, of the Germans the Germans were the world leading in technological and mechanical, and this is a big problem because they were getting so advanced. I mean, they did build anti-gravity aircraft. They had several different versions of, because there is many different versions of creating anti-gravity, but they had several different variations. They were panicking to try and get this not off the ground, but controlled flight. Now, the problem is the Americans knew, well, you know what, they've got them off the ground. If they get these sorted and control flight, it's over with. They've got air supremacy, and we'll never, ever be able to deal with that. So there's a mad rush to get in there. Not only that, the technology, but get the scientists as well. So this kind of links back because we realized, well, if you were doing all these ritualistic practices, what was the method? The research program that took place came up with, well, surprisingly, at least 14 or 15 different methods of communicating with NHI through ritualistic practices. Some of them were seance-based, some of them weren't. Some of them were direct, ritualistic practices. Sometimes they were offerings. In ancient times, they would have been real proper sacrifice offerings. Horrible to say, but that's actually true. But in more modern times, it was like, well, can you leave a blood sample? I mean, why? Well, it's not about the blood, it's about the intent. And the intent helps sort of combine this cooperation, the handshake, in a sense of speaking, that you're dealing with. So we knew that there was these several back doors of communication with NHI. We also realised that it's risky, B, you shouldn't really do that, and C, it seems like they don't really like it. It's like hammering at the door and getting their attention very quickly. And they're not usually happy with that, but it can lead to communications. The long, safe process is basically introduction through seance. And like a number of other experiments, we went down that path because of the safety protocols that had to be involved, But the problem was, it took 9 months to create the circle. Your 12 people were sat, 12 for a reason, and we had to was what we refer to as fine-tune the circle. Now, we were very surprised because me being, luckily, I'm a scientist, but I've been an experiencer since I'm 7 years of age. So in other words, what comes first? Well, I'm an experiencer. I still am. And that became, that was long before I became a scientist, so I thought, okay, so I might be all right. What happened when I introduced other scientists, which weren't experiencers? We checked the results and they were very poor. We got some tiny little bits, but it was really communications with something that might have been, people might be referred to as spirit. Okay. And but you know what? I've been involved in other experiments, and I thought they were better than this. What's going on? So we swapped out the people that were not didn't believe in it. So we got rid of them, and we got rid of those that really wasn't an experiencer. So we ended up, after 9 months of switching people around and doing test procedures, to having literally 12 experiencers around the table, and people which sometimes, some of them were gifted in some ways. And boy, did that sort of get their attention. Then it started, you get the results, you start, oh, blimey, we're like supercharged now. And this took on like 9 months to get there. And we realized, okay, we've got to do this. So we fine tune it, we get there, and then we had to go through the process. The first process is through spirit communication. Well, when I say spirit, I say, okay, spirit communication, because it's still up for debate. And then we kind of push forward through that into, you start getting light manifestations, materialisms, and poltergeist type stuff, balls of light, interactions, that sort of thing, some physical phenomena. And then what you do is, you're like, I mean, it was well known and well documented that you don't say, look, we want to talk, we want to communicate with aliens. You never say that. It is not that. There are certain sayings and things similar to intelligence is beyond our realm and reality. Things like that. There is a certain method of wording they use. Eventually it came through as like scratchy noises first, which developed into words. Now, we got to the point where we were receiving DVP, direct voice phenomena, and it was interesting because it was coming from the top left corner of the room, right in the corner of the left room, and it, we're talking about 8 foot up there at the top of the ceiling, and that is where it seemed to be coming from. There's nothing there, but what was interesting is that it was clearly voices, but just by asking people, was it male or female, we couldn't really determine. It was strange. He was saying, well, it could be female, it might be male. I mean, it's pretty easy to identify a male's voice to a female's voice, I would say. But this was not human vocals. Though we were hearing voice, the recording equipment analysis was saying it's not produced by human vocals. And it was difficult to ascertain if it was male or female, but they did communicate, and we obtained communications. Now, the process of doing this now, I mean, you know what, I've been involved in quite a number of experiments, but this one took me by surprise, and it had me contemplating the world and reality around me. And there's quite a few sleepless nights, but we were quickly becoming drunk on success. And this was, we did not realize there's a problem with this until it was a bit late. We were going at it 3 or 4 experiments per day in communications. It was just constant. We were so excited. We were going there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, conducting, and we were just soaking it up. Well, about 7 weeks in, I started getting reports, and it started actually with me hearing a few things going on at my house. And thought, it's a bit strange. Not heard these bangs and knocks and scratches before. And I just thought, well, do you know what? In my line of work, maybe I'm just bringing my work home a little bit. And you do. It happens. I'm a parapsychological researcher, so it occasionally happens. Yeah. My family ain't used to that, but this is different. And then I started to see. I've always been seeing UAP. So it's just a regular occurrence, but off scale, basically. I mean, like every other day. And I thought, wow. It's not normal. I see so many, and it's not just me. People with me were seeing these things, and I think they got to a point where there was 4 discs in the sky at the same time, and I was like, "What is going on?" And then other reports started coming in from our team, experimenters saying, "Oh, we're having some problems at home." Now this started to escalate to literally, it went to all the way to being physically attacked. I mean, the incidents that happened to me happened identical to others. It's early hours in the morning. We were waking up at 3 a.m. God knows why. Why can't it be 2:59 or 2 minutes past 3 in the morning? No, I look over, purposely looking over. It's 3 o'clock. Why is it 3 o'clock again? What's going on? Is something psychologically happening here? But then, I went to the bathroom, came back, got into bed. I was just turning over when something came through the bed, underneath the bed, came through the mattress and grabbed me, literally. Oh my God. And it came up through the bed. And I was like struggling with this thing to get this damn thing off me. And it was a bit of a struggle. And of course, a bit of a battle went on, but I got it off me and I was furious. because these things don't scare me, they just challenge me now, you know. I mean, for all the years I've spent in this subject, but yeah, I thought this is intrusion, this is intrudity, this is not good. What's got hell's going on? And then we started to have problems. Our vehicles wouldn't start. Things were going, very important things were going missing. The special documents, paperwork, keys, and even keys to the office, all sorts of things. And I thought, what's going on? And then it was just like problems with like, oh well, we got illnesses and this, that, and the other. And we thought something. So then we realised, because we'd become literally drunk on the success, this phenomenon was getting under our skin. And it was quite intriguing because it was very clever at drawing you in, because one communication, as an example, said, you know, we can ask some questions next time we come back. Oh, right. So we asked 10 questions and put them down, and would you answer these questions? And the reply said yes. So we thought, okay. So we went away and we literally had to sit down and have a meeting to say, okay, guys, what's the 10 questions we're going to ask? Because normally you just roll them off your tongue, wouldn't you? Oh, But when you sort of realise that you might actually get some truthful answers, I don't know, because they can be for sure, but sometimes it shows that they are actually telling the truth. So I'm thinking to myself, well, do we want the answers? Yeah, am I going to be happy with understanding what their answer is? Will it sit with me? Will I be able to, you know, kind of fit it into my mind and carry on, you know, and not be deflected from my work? And we debated this, but we thought, do you know what? Yeah, so because we might get some deceptiveness here, because it's just like the US government, information and disinformation they provide. I'm sure the government learned it from them, to be honest with you, because that's exactly what they do. But we sat down and we pondered and we put 10 questions down, the real important ones, you know, and we went back and we had all these questions, 10 questions wrote down. We started this session, and just before we even asked the questions, out of the corner of the room bellowed all 10 answers to the questions we had. We hadn't even asked the questions.
So they were letting you.
Now, that's one of two things then, because we had to deliver another meeting then to say, okay, what's the dynamics here? What's happening? Well, there's one of two things. They were either monitoring us when we were at the meeting to say what questions were going to go down, or they're getting it from us. It's in our heads.
Well,
it can only be one of the two, you know.
Right, yeah.
So we think to ourselves, okay, this is really interesting. I mean, I'll give you an example, you know. I mean, one of the first questions that we decided to sort of say is, you know, if we die, do we go to heaven? But the problem is that you don't get it. You know, the worst than NASA never getting a straight answer. They absolutely are, because they're so cryptic and done purposeful, so that you end up like confused and wanting to ask at least another 100 questions because of the response they've given. Their response to the question that, you know, if we die, do we go to heaven? Is it heaven? Do we go to one? And the response was, for those that make it. I was like, what? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
It's an vague.
Yeah, it does, like, well, that's cryptic. You know, I mean, you know, so, I mean, we did ask some scientific questions regarding parallel universe or parallel realities, closed dimensions to us. They did say yes, and 11, they named 11. This was prior to the scientific teams, because this is back in 2003, and it wasn't documented officially across the internet until around about 2015 or 16, that all scientists believe that there's 11 dimensions around us. And I thought, that's interesting. So did we get an actual correct answer there? You know, so maybe we did get a correct answer. Is there other others? You know, is there other worlds, like parallel realities, where there's another Earth, there's another me, there's another you? And they said yes, many. And I thought, okay, is that a red herring, or is it true? And this is the problem, because when you're asking questions about the unknown, how do you know you're getting a truthful answer? Because it's unknown, you know. But I'm sure out of the 10 there was some in there which were true, but we did get drunk on it. And so because of this, we realized, and we had to write a new protocol, because you got to consider, like, we were doing it maybe 3, 4, 5 times sometimes in a day.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's so exciting. You're like, oh my God, I've got to go back and learn more, you know. And
time travel?
We did talk about time travel. They said time doesn't exist. It said everything exists at the same moment. There's no space, there's no time, there's no past, there's no future. There is only now, and everything exists within it. And it's like, well, I've got to get heavily into, and I mean, back in 2000, and that was 2004, that conversation, it was like, well, there was not much on the quantum mechanics around then, but now you kind of go, oh, yeah, in the quantum world, there is no time, there's no space.
Yes.
It's all absolutely together. You know, it's all entangled. So it kind of makes sense now, but it was just puzzling back then, of course, you know. But we had to write protocols in when we all realised that it's clever, it draws you in and you get excited, but it's at the same time, it's crafty. It's like getting under your skin. A bit like a virus in a sense. It gets under your skin. And all these things start happening. Now, I listened to a very interesting interview done by Robert Bigelow, who investigated Sherman Ranch and, you know, Skinwalker and all. And what you don't get to hear about is his work with John Alexander and his wife Victoria, Hal Puthoff, Jacques Vallée, and a number of others, where they were trying to increase the results of obtaining data and ended up, believe it or not, in the world of ritualistic practice. And they started getting results. The problem is, though, it happened to them, well, it happened to Bigelow and 3 members of the NIDS team that got under their skin. Exactly the same thing happened to them as it happened to us. I didn't know this till more recently, because I didn't even know Bigelow had done this until maybe about 4 years ago when he was interviewed by George Knapp. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's the same thing. So we had to change the protocols to make it just simply it was called the 2 in 5 or the 3 in 7. That means that you only do it 2 times in 5 days or 3 times in a week. We were doing it 3-4 times a day, you know. So yeah, and after a while, it did let up. It was like, oh, okay. So we could tell by the response that yes, there's a way of management of this, you know, and it's so easy to divulge yourself into this so quickly because it's very exciting. Now, what we did manage to reach is to the point where discussions about metaphysicality, and not only the discussions about it, but absolute demonstrations of metaphysicality, where balls of light appeared. They were smaller than a tennis ball, bigger than a ping pong ball in between, extremely bright. Now, the light meters were measuring about 30 to 35,000 watts of energy coming off these lights. It was tremendous. But what was really weird, when we measured the illuminance, not luminance, but illuminance, in other words, how much light hits an area, you know, like a stadium light, you know, we know like, oh, well, there might be 1,000 or 2,000 watts per bulb, and they light the stadium floor, the fields. Well, it's how much light hits the field. Now, but we can work this out in mathematics, physics. We can work out what the difference between luminance and illuminance. But these lights were delivering a huge amount of luminance and very little illuminance, which is going against the normal physics of understanding of how light actually performs. Now, I have on record the highest amount that's ever been documented from one of these light sources, and he's gonna tell you what, I was shocked. It was 960 megawatts. Now, that's the amount of a power station. That's the amount of a nuclear power station. But its luminance on the floor and the surrounding areas were very low compared to its brilliance. So we had this in miniature appearing, and they would bounce. They'd hit the table and then go through. And we had to see this for a few times and say, well, what has just happened? It's physical, so it bounces. So it's a physical object there and you can't see anything. It literally is just a ball of light, and it's very bright. But it bounces a couple of times on the table, experimental table, and goes through, and then came up, and then bounced again. So we realised that it was a demonstration. It's a metaphysical demonstration to show, oh, guys, you know, do you know that we can change our metaphysical appearance to be able to be in your reality and be physical, but also go through solid items. So I started to think about, well, hang on a second, this is the same sort of stuff that happens in poltergeist cases. You know, you've got physical items that seemingly pass through walls, or ceilings. And you sat there thinking, well, is it physical or not? It's kind of both. Or you see an apparition walk through a door, but yet it can prod you. It's both. And then we see it in other aspects as well, and the subject of UAP, the physical one minute, they're not physical the next. They don't leave wakes when they go into water, or they don't splash. You know, it's as if like, will we see them? But the problem is when people say, is it real? All we go off is our eyesight, don't we? We say, oh, there's a UFO. Was it real? Well, yes, it was, because I saw it. Yeah, but it looked real. But that's just the aspect of it. Is it really physical, though, in nature? And I think they can switch this. I think they've always been capable of metaphysically switching. This is why in abduction cases, they come through, it came through the ceiling, they came through the window. And what did they do? Well, they picked me up. Well, how can they pick you up? They just come through the wall or the ceiling. So everything's always been metaphysical. And this is what they were trying to demonstrate to us, that there's this metaphysicality. Now, the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, National Laboratory, it's very secret, the stuff that goes on there. But they were conducting similar tests, but they were well ahead of us.
Stephen, did you just say Lawrence Livermore?
Yeah, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories.
Yes, I actually did an investigation over there.
Really?
Yes, and some of my investigators actually saw some UFOs over there. And supposedly, I think it was 1984, supposedly one of their super lasers shot down a UFO.
Yep.
When it crashed into Lawrence Livermore Labs, and they made they gathered a bunch of tires and set them on fire, and the smoke kept everybody away.
Yep.
And that way they were able to.
You're right.
Yes.
You're right. I know about it.
Yeah.
The problem is when they started the experiments there, and that's what caused them to keep appearing in the sky. Even Pultoff's gone on record saying this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yes, buddy.
I was wondering, do you remember the green ship or green lights that the police saw in the Las Vegas case, the Las Vegas alien case?
Yes.
So that one that was on the door camera or whatever, and the police dash, I always see something like that by the Lawrence Livermore Lab. When I go to Concord, several times I've seen like right over the head where it has that copper tail, that's super green, and you think, hey, I can almost go and maybe look for it, but you know it's somewhere further than what your eye thinks. But I've seen quite a bit of those in the Bay Area.
There is a lot. And what they realized is that most of these things are manifesting, and it wasn't just over the building, they were happening in the labs, because this is what they were trying to do. And they were running simultaneously, they were running 60 different experiments simultaneously. And some of these were regarding advanced paranormal mechanics. Some of them were through NHI contact cases. You know, I mean, there's even Skip Atwater, who ran the remote viewing program from Stanford. He had an experience on the grassy knoll there, along with Joe McGonigal. And they were beings there between, and they were talking with them, and you know, it was crazy. But I got told by Hal Puthoff that, you know what, it's happening there all the time, but it's systematically happening at the time of the experiments. So they're interested in what they were doing. But they went one further. They had a small glass vase, or vase, you could say. It was only about so big, moving across the table by request to NHI. And they were getting DVP to move it back, move it back. And they did it to the point where they reached out to move it, and the hand went right through it. And this is when the experimenters started firing lasers at it. And you know what? It refracted the light. The light reflected off it. It cast shadow. And yet it was non-physical. And what was documented is when they put the hand through the vase very slowly, there was a tiny micro filament that seemed to appear around the fingers as it went through. There was no tingling sensations. There was nothing cold to feel. They took magnetometers there, radiologists were there. They took all these, they were absolutely flatlined, nothing out of the norm, except for the fact that they have taken something which is out in our environment and made it non-physical for a short period of time until they kind of released it or transitioned it back into reality so it could be picked up. That was another demonstration. This is a demonstration that they can now show that they can manipulate even our fundamental things of our reality, which we believe to be physical within our day. But we live in that box. But they are not in that box. We've got to get out of that box of our understanding of physics.
Well, that's like CERN, right? I mean, with Dr. Astrid Stuckerberger, who talked about the entities, the 17 dimensions, and then Bertolucci said, "Hey, we're gonna start it up again around eclipse, and we're gonna have something either come through this portal or come out. There's gonna be an 18th." They talked about a possible 18th dimension. I mean,
well,
what do you think about the College Elite?
Yeah, the dimensions have expanded as time's gone on, but maybe it was our understanding of at certain times, but it's increased. It's probably even more now. But I was aware that they were trying to establish, not creating, in a sense, because wormhole technology was listed on the government documents as one of the most principal research programs in the US. It's taking place secretly. It's been conducted at not just one CERN. There are 5 different ones, and do you know what? They're planning on a huge one being built next. So I mean, they're already big, but the development into punching a hole into another reality was a systematic thing that they were all trying to achieve. But the problem was it was about stabilization and what can get in, what get out. And I was told that they were using mice to try and get them in and out only for a few seconds for the mouse to live. But the mice kept dying. But they achieved it by providing the mice in a container filled with argon gas, and that allowed the mice to survive the transition. It was only for about several seconds, but it was a transition. But the problematic of it is that within only minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, 15 minutes, the mice died. And they were trying to figure out why did the mice die, and it was rapid cell growth aging. It died of old age, literally. Now, this is interesting because the apports that appeared in the skull experiment in 1998 of newspapers from 1936 were analysed by professionals, and they said on 1936 newspaper, it's 1936 ink, it's legitimate. It's just like it's just come straight off the press, brand new. But they put that in a glass container and out of UV light, and it rapidly aged 500 days per day. Because of the browning on the newspaper, they realised it had caught up from 1936 when the paper was made to 1998. That aging process quickly developed, literally within a week. It had browned that much. And it aged roughly, they worked it out, it's probably around about 500 days per day. So you think, okay, so time's involved, or, something is involved in regarding these sort of things. It gets very weird, because then there are people that are talking about, well, when people have these abduction encounters and stuff, it's one of two things, that they may have been on board this craft or may have been taken somewhere for hours and they're missing only 15 minutes. Or it's the other way around, like I was only on the craft, I think, for about a minute or two, or 5 minutes at the most, and I've been gone for 3 hours. So it's like, yeah, or even days, and come to Travis Walton, Travis, 5 days, It's strange. We've got to wrap our heads around this physics a bit, and we've got to get out this box of kind of stuck in a box. We've got to get out of that box, because there's demonstrations now, and there are number of laboratories which are conducting these secret experiments, and they're learning a lot, but it's falling into the quantum realities, quantum mechanics. And the stuff that I've seen just over the last month is astonishing in regarding what you might refer to as quantum imaging. I mean, this is stuff outside our space and time. And I'll tell you, there are constructs, very large geometric constructs in our skies, and we will never see them. And it's not a matter of infrared, and it's not a matter of ultraviolet. It's a whole different quantum imaging is a whole frequency change. It's like, well, it's this level, not this level, of the spectrum. And there are things around that we would never know exist. It's so weird, and we're trying to even understand the reality that we live in, because it's definitely some type of mechanism which can be utilized or manipulated by the phenomenon. We've got to get our heads around it. But the experiments are continuing, but we're getting into a little bit more details in regarding the sciences side of things, paranormal mechanics and that sort of thing. It's fascinating.
Universe mysterious. Go ahead, Staci.
I have a question. Okay, so believe in ghosts and things that, right? Okay, you believe in demons as well?
Say that again, Staci.
Do you believe in demons as well? Like, demons
okay,
exist?
all right. Here we go. So this is going to
Here we go. Here we go. I mean,
okay. Well, and the reason I was asking because what is the difference between everything that's happening, all the stuff happening from like a regular like alien or like a ghost or something like that. How to differentiate between two? Like if we're on paranormal investigation and we start getting all kind of stuff that you talk about, how do you know that it's an alien or a human?
Well, this is where it gets really tricky, because the problem is that we've created boxes, compartmentalization of different things into different boxes. If you've got to remove the mask, you've got to remove all these different archetypes. And once you do, you reveals the mechanism. The mechanism all do the same things. So we know we're dealing with a mechanism that seemingly portrays itself in multiple different ways. This has even been confirmed by NHI. It's also been confirmed by a number of different scientists. When they're conducting the experiments, we may have what is referred to is forced perception. Now, you've got Dr. Gary Nolan at the moment talking about damage to the human brain for people that have traumatic, not just UAP encounters, but maybe paranormal encounters as well. And it's damaging, which people didn't know, it damages part of the brain, the caudate putamen. The caudate putamen part of the brain is what controls human perception. And how is it being scarred and damaged is because something is forced perception is applied. In other words, a phenomena is forcing itself onto our perception. So we don't see for what it is, or its environment, or anything. This is the biggest problem, from people saying we saw animated toys to a demon, to an angel, to a ghost, to an alien, to a Bigfoot, whatever. The problems is that you've got all these fundamental variations of these different types of beings interacting, but they kind of do all the same sort of thing. When you look across the whole board and look at the little tiny mechanism, you think, oh, hang on, that's the same as that. Paralysis, for example, paralysis in alien abductions, paralysis from shadow figures in paranormal phenomena in the bedroom. They're exactly the same. All it's doing is that when we go to sleep every night, we hit paralysis because it's REM. And in REM, we are paralyzed. There's input blockade and output blockade. Output blockade is we can't move. Input blockade is when we can't hear. But it happens just like little tiny parts. You're spending sleep for about 8 hours a night just to try and get 20 minutes of REM. That's how bad we are. And we're in and out all the time. But when we're in it, that's the situation. But that mechanism's already here. So the phenomena comes along and just switches the switch. And it's only within us already. So there's a lot of what is assumed to be perception alteration taking place. And we now know by wearing we can get these, the special bands, flow bands. You put them on your head and they'll measure to your cell phone your brainwave activity whilst you're out mobile now. Oh, wonderful technologies. That means you, me, and anybody else can go out doing investigations in the paranormal or UAP or whatever, and you can monitor your own brain waves. What's happening to your brain when you see a ghost? What's happening to your brain when you see a UFO? And I tell you what, you'd be shocked, because what's happening is it forces us into a different brainwave. That brainwave is theta. Now, theta brainwave is not normal when you're conscious and walking around and awake. It's kind of when you're under hypnosis or going in and out of sleep or daydreaming. Those are the most times when you are most manipulated by perception and experience. It's those things that during sleep, during hypnosis, it's when you're in theta mode. The phenomena, and we didn't even know, and it can happen as fast as 20 seconds. That's how fast we've got it. It may even happen faster. But 20 seconds of experiencing the phenomena, no matter what it is,
Okay.
20 seconds was the fastest we literally had it monitored, that our brain waves went from normal state into theta without